None of you seem to understand. I'm not locked in here with you.
You're locked in here with me.
All right. It's the Sunday night live stream. It's Radio Baloney Live. I am your host, Richie Baloney. Hope everybody had a great weekend. So much news going on, right? So much news. It's constant. Somebody out there let me know that the audio was working okay. Everything's working fine. You know the story. Constant technical difficulties. But what are we going to talk about? Well, I mean, what else? It's Jover. It is Jover. This doesn't really come as a big surprise. So we're going to talk about that, obviously. We're going to go all through it. What happens next? How does it all work? Because Kamala is not just like the automatic nominee. We're going to look at Kamala Harris or Kamala or however the fuck you say it. I don't know. Apparently there's a proper way to say it. Who's going to replace Joe Biden? We're going to take a look at some of the people, some of the incredibly evil people that might take his place if it's not Kamala. God knows these are scary looking people. Jesus. We're going to take a look at, any new stuff that's come through on the Trump assassination attempt and the shooter. Look at some Joe Biden stuff. And then we're going to go through all kinds of stuff that I have put together over the course of the week. A lot of stuff we couldn't get to actually on Friday night. A lot of stuff we can get to on Friday night. We've got WEF. We've got Kamala Harris. We've got Matt Gaetz there. Got all this WEF stuff, World Economic Forum. Jeez. Donald Trump on Kamala Harris. We want to hear about that, I think. What's going on with this guy? That's a problem. She's going to tell us about how white liberal boomers can be really nasty to minorities who don't toe the line. Yeah, exactly. So much stuff in here. So much crazy stuff. Look at this. Some large ladies went to Disney and they got some rashes. We've got a little something to say about that. Bill Maher. I mean, so much. There's so much. Joe Rogan, for God's sakes. There's so much. I don't even know if we can still get to all of it. There's some crazy people. Look at these crazy people protesting at the RNC. What the hell is wrong with them? Must be putting something in the water. I don't know. Look at this. Stuff like this. This lady said, Fidel Cashflow said, What flag is this, and why is their obesity rate so high? Oh, not the rainbow flag. I keep seeing fat women use it. What country are they from? This is what the internet's for, folks. This is why we love it. All right, so we got all of that kind of stuff. So open to watch a movie or something that I could talk about, but then I forgot. I think I did actually watch a movie yesterday, though, and I forgot to make notes. Oh, you know what I watched yesterday? It was The Departed from it's like 20 years old now with Jack Nicholson and Leonardo DiCaprio. And you couldn't, Matt, what's his name? From Good Will Hunting. And yeah, you can't make a movie like that anymore, by the way. You just can't do it. Just so much of the script, so much of the dialogue would have just been no, you can't say that. And it would have been cast all differently. Let's see. We got Dramas Eves in the chat. What's 1717? I don't know what that means. JJ Nevada says, "Hey, Richie, how you doing, JJ?" Good to see you in the chat. All right, folks. So it's Jover. It is Jover. It's kind of bizarre that everything went this far, right? Like the debate was a surprise to absolutely nobody except apparently the media. The people that are supposed to have some idea, supposed to know, really should have been reporting on all the problems, reporting on what we knew since 2020. I mean, we were saying that Biden's brains were scrambled during the primaries before he was even the nominee. We were saying it can't be Joe. Joe's brains are scrambled. That's not going to work. He's going to embarrass himself. I mean, they can't be that cynical that they would just put in somebody who's just clearly just an empty vessel in for 4 years. Well, it turns out they can be. But things have reached a point, apparently after the great shock of the debate, that none of them had any idea about. Nobody in the White House, nobody in the media had any clue that Joe Biden's brains were scrambled. But there we have it. So now, anyway, I think the problem is that he just started to decline. The decline accelerated. Right? His decline accelerated. And I think even since the debate, it's accelerated. I mean, they can't even put him out there just for like a 1-minute statement anymore. So it's clear he has to go as the nominee. Now, you'd think that perhaps maybe it's time for him to not be president anymore as well. If he can't handle a campaign, how is he going to handle being president? I mean, I suspect he hasn't really been all along. But the whole time they basically just put pieces of paper in front of him to sign. He doesn't even know what's on them. They put things on teleprompters for him to read. You know, maybe they give him like a short breakdown, like they'll train him really hard for a specific thing. So it sounds like he's making some sort of decisions, but I don't know. It seems like if you can't handle like just an interview, a softball interview on TV, probably not really, qualified to be the president, but apparently going to keep him. They probably had to promise him that he could finish out his term, because I'm sure he's quite concerned about that, because if he doesn't finish the term, he's definitely will be considered to be a failed president. So finish out his term, but he can't run again. They got to get somebody else in, somebody they think that can beat Donald Trump. I thought for a second, and I said it on the show too, I thought after that iconic image of Trump with the fist raised, I thought it's all over. They might as well just keep running. Maybe they'll just keep running Joe, because it doesn't really matter. He can be the sacrificial lamb. But I think the decline has been too steep, and it's going to accelerate. It's going to get worse and worse now. I mean, these things don't just slow down. He's not going to start getting better. His brains aren't going to get unscrambled suddenly. No, it's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse fast. To the point, I think, that they'll probably have to 25th Amendment them at some point. Because, again, it's happening real fast now. real fast. I mean, do you see a situation where they just keep him? They've got him in an iron lung or cryogenically frozen in the basement of the White House or something just to try and get through? JJ Nevada says, Joe Biden. It says, here comes Hildebeest. Well, you talking about Hillary there? I don't know. I mean, she came out and endorsed Kamala right away, I believe. So they probably cut some deal. There's some power broker deal that they've cut to get her something that she wants. I don't think they'd run her again. Not against Trump. But you got Kamala Harris. She's the one. Well, let's first take a look at this. So Biden ends bid for second term in White House as he drops out of his 2024 rematch with Trump. But President Biden announced Sunday that he will suspend his 2024 re-election campaign amid mounting pressure from within the Democratic Party for the president to end his 2024 bid after a disastrous debate performance last month, of which absolutely nobody was surprised by except the media, apparently. And the Democratic politicians. The unprecedented announcement came as an increasing number of Democrat lawmakers had begun to publicly call for Biden to step aside, and the party's leadership reportedly was engaged in efforts to convince Biden, 81, that he could not win in November's general election against former President Trump. Yeah. So he had to go. Biden quickly offered his full support and endorsement for Vice President Kamala Harris to take over as the party's presidential nominee. Now, I've heard that they're feeling pretty betrayed by old Barack Obama. I don't know why he'd feel betrayed. I mean, I think it was always obvious that they hated. I mean, didn't Obama famously said, well, it was reported that he said this, that, don't underestimate Joe's ability to fuck things up. They've never been warm towards the Bidens, the Obamas. Right? I've never heard anything that would suggest that he actually liked Joe Biden, that Obama liked Joe Biden. And it's a dog eat dog. It's a very dirty, nasty, remorseless, vicious game, politics. But apparently, the Bidens are not very happy with Obama. But what did they expect? Got ICare22 in the chat. Good to see ya. Joe Biden said, it's been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. He wrote this in a public letter. While it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. Yeah, they're going to put him in the basement. Again, they might just cryogenically freeze him or something. I don't know. They might put him into a coma or something, and they're just going to hide him away. They're going to keep him on ice unless they have to bring him out for something. But it's really kind of sad. They should just let him go to that rest home. Although he doesn't want to. This is the thing. Don't forget, he didn't want to do this. He wanted to stay in. Right? I'm sure he's not thinking at all of the fact that he's done everything possible to corruptly try and jail his main political rival. And I don't know, there's probably a few neurons somewhere in his brain that remember all that stuff that's in the Hunter Biden laptop that turned out to actually be real. Can you believe that? The 10% for the big guy, all that stuff with the Burisma and Ukraine. And you're not going to get the $1 billion unless you fire that prosecutor. And the millions of dollars from China. And don't forget that 10% for the big guy. I wonder if that's occupies something in his mind. He's a bit worried. somebody might go after him. Possibly. He didn't want to do this. So he's had some major assurances, I'm sure, before he's actually agreed to this. Or before Jill agreed to it, I guess. He said he will formally address the nation later this week about his decision. For now, he said, Joe Biden, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for drinking all of the White House wine. Sorry, for being an extraordinary partner in all this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. And also for the people who did the shadow campaign and the fortifying. I'm sure he likes that too. JJ Nevada says Biden will pardon himself and his entire family before he leaves. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely that's going to happen. No question about that. So he's backing Harris. So what else is going on here? So what happens now? So Biden's out as the nominee, although he's going to be nominally president for a while. I can't imagine, like, he seems to be degrading so quickly that I can't imagine him getting through till the end of the election and into next year. But who knows? Maybe they came up with some new drug. What happens in the Democratic nomination now that Biden has left the race? So what happens? Well, basically it tells us here. Here's what likely happens now that Biden is blah, blah, blah. According to Democrats' current rules. President Joe Biden announced on July 21 that he was dropping out of the presidential election. Democratic Party rules suggest the following steps to formally nominate the next candidate either during a virtual roll call, which the party was tentatively planning for early August, or at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago from August 19th to 22nd. I wonder if they kind of regret this whole Chicago thing, considering like 1968 and you got all this Palestinian stuff going on. They seem to be all those people seem to be pretty cross at the Democrats. I was very surprised at the RNC. And I saw like a couple of interviews with some crazy people there. I think we've got some videos of that in the live stream. There's a few, the usual suspects, the revolutionary communists and all of that. But nothing really went down. I thought they were going to freak out. But yeah, nothing really went down. So maybe we won't see much at the Democratic convention in Chicago. But the left, I don't know. They seem to be pretty into this whole Palestine thing. They like to freak out about that, as well as a million other things, of course. One thing you can count on is that they are not going to allow, or they're going to try and put their foot down on any, mostly peaceful protesting that they do see, which maybe will inflame the situation. Who knows? But yeah, I don't think they're going to tolerate all that much mostly peaceful protesting. That much, mostly, fiery, but mostly peaceful. Got a feeling they might have changed their mind on that for their convention. But we shall see. So potential nominees, because don't forget, Kamala is not the automatic nominee. She's still got to get those electors. Potential nominees would need to gain signatures from hundreds of delegates and be recognized as candidates. Then 3,949 individual delegates, nearly all former Biden delegates, and roughly 750 superdelegates would be called upon to select the nominee. Candidates would campaign among the delegates for votes, amongst the delegates for votes. So they're up for grabs. It's not an automatic. They don't just automatically, all of these delegates don't just automatically go to Joe Biden. Superdelegates may or may not take part in the first round of voting. If no candidate gets a majority. If no candidate gets a majority, voting continues in rounds. When all delegates are involved, a majority of the nearly 4,700 total delegates votes wins the nomination. So it's still up in the air. I mean, I think right now you maybe assume that just the simplest thing is it just goes to Kamala. But we don't know. We don't know. JJ Nevada is saying they will go crazy in Chicago. I'm expecting that they want to go crazy, but again, the Democrats they're not going to tolerate any mostly peaceful protesting for their convention. They're going to go police state in a real hurry. Well, okay, well, look at this. Well, this is offensive. JJ Nevada is saying that heels up Harris isn't a natural born citizen, so she can't be president. If they try it, it will go to the Supreme Court. I saw something about that earlier. I haven't looked into it closely. Maybe we'll take a look at it actually during this. But I don't have, I haven't confirmed that for myself yet. Maybe we'll take a look at that. So yeah, so there's still a process to go through here. And they're politicians, so they're ambitious. Who could we be looking at? Well, Vice President Kamala Harris. Let's just do a little bit of a memory lane for Kamala. What's going on here? Well, what is she doing?
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you. You think you just fell out.
I think in her case, the context includes a box of wine, like a really expensive box of wine, though, suitable for the White House. Jesus. Well, let's see. Dr. Simon Godek says Kamala Harris as the Democratic presidential candidate would be a huge win for Trump Vance because she's even more mentally limited than Joe. And actually remind me, let's take a look at the polling, because the polling actually, there's not much movement, but it would be good to go take a look at the latest one. Remind me, you guys.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What?
It's not a good line. Why does she keep using it everywhere? This is a lapse in judgment on her part. She just keeps using it.
What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What we can see, what we believe can be unburdened by what has been. What can
It's not a winner. It's really not a winner. She needs to come up with something new.
be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be.
Hold on a second. I want to see that Clinton one again. Where was Clinton? Okay. Because Clinton looks like he's thinking, oh no, she's got to say the line.
What has been. What can be unburdened.
So he looks like, oh no, she's got to say it. Not again. I had my people reach out. Stop saying that. It sounds really stupid.
Burdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been.
Who we can be, unburdened by who we have been.
What can be.
So this is like 3 minutes and 30 seconds. It can't be the whole thing of her just repeating that super lame line over and over again, can it?
Who are unable to see what can be. But there are many more who are able to see what can be unburdened by what has been.
Oh, Jesus. Where did she get that from? She must have come up with it herself, and she's super proud of it. Good Lord. Big mistake. Well, here's RFK Jr. spending 2 minutes apparently shredding Kamala Harris. But you know what? I want to see the polls right now. So let's see what let's see real clear. I think it's Real Clear Politics is the aggregate. Politics, presidential polls. So let's see. How about this one here? First one, this July 19th. It's got CBS News poll versus Biden, Trump 52, Biden 47, Trump 51, Harris 48. So Harris has actually got a 1-point advantage over Biden, still behind though. And also too, I mean, the public at large hasn't really been exposed to her that much. You know, people, I think a lot of people haven't seen her talk yet. A lot of people are still unburdened by what she might say. So that could change. I mean, once she's in the spotlight, and I swear to God, she's an alcoholic. I mean, I think we've got some clips of her just obviously being drunk at a press conference, you know. And, you know, the thing with an alkie is that, you know, when the pressure, you know, ramps up, they tend to drink even more. Let's see. So, I mean, this is just one poll here, but I think it'll probably, because we can't forget that it literally could be anybody. So she could be polling before she's the nominee. She could be polling nationally at 1%. And as soon as she's the nominee, she just inherits at minimum 47%, because it could be anybody. Right? Like she could eat a baby live on television and she'll still get, you know, 45% of the vote. Doesn't matter. You know, that's just the division and the tribalism is such that that's just the way it works now. She could tell the public, she could campaign on her campaign promise could be that if she wins, she will randomly select 10 people every month to take to a private island and hunt, and she'll call it the most dangerous game, right? And she's going to personally hunt them with a team of expert trackers, and she still get 45, 46, 47% of the vote. So it doesn't really matter. Anybody who gets in is just going to inherit a gigantic share of the vote already, and it won't matter what she says. Wonder what JFK has to say about it. Sometimes he's not very nice, I've got to say. Sometimes he's not that complimentary. Let's see.
You mentioned Kamala Harris is who you said that the Democratic Party appeared poised to put into that position. You were critical there, obviously, of President Biden's policy. What, if anything, is different? How do you compare yourself to Kamala Harris if she does become the Democratic nominee for president?
Well, I think, you know, Kamala Harris is the party of war. She is, she's a war hawk. You know, the Democratic Party was always the peace party. Kamala Harris is a war hawk on Ukraine. She's a war hawk on China. I think that we should be figuring out ways to coexist with the rest of the world as best we can. Of course, we need to protect our national security. I think she's not going to do anything about the national deficit. I've never heard her speak about the chronic disease epidemic, I think she's a product of the corporate control of our democracy. And she's one of the authors of, in terms of civil rights, she has one of the worst civil rights record of any public official. She's the author of one of the primary authors of the school to prison pipeline. She kept 5,000 people, despite a Supreme Court order that she released 5,000 prisoners and of nonviolent drug crimes who were illegally in California jails. She kept them in there saying that we needed them for firefighting and for other public work services. And that's just a modern version of indentured servitude, a modern version of slavery. She was one of the two leading public officials in California, which now has the worst education system, 49th in education outcomes in the country. 50% of the homeless people in our country are in California, and she was behind those policies. Oh, I don't think she has a...
So he's not a fan. He's not a fan of her at all. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be the same people that tell Joe Biden what to do and what to sign are going to... It'll be the same with her. It's just be her doing, but the same people that tell Joe Biden what to do, she'll be doing, they'll be telling her what to do as well. I'm sure she'll have a few kooky ideas of her own, that they'll humor her with. Maybe she'll want to put George Floyd on Mount Rushmore or something like that. But I mean, she's just, I don't know. She's as obvious of an empty vessel as Joe Biden was. See, it's anything here I want to see. Well, there's, I don't think we need to see. We'll come back to that. How about this? Tulsi Gabbard annihilated Kamala Harris on national TV in a debate. Well, let's take a look at this. Sometimes I forget that Tulsi was a Democrat. Sometimes she doesn't seem to like them anymore at all. I kind of like her, but let's
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris.
I want to bring.
Well, I'm sure there's a super PAC putting that in an ad right now. It may even be running right now for all we know. Let's see. What are you guys saying? JJ Nevada says she can't complete a sentence or compile a sentence. Well, the sentences she does compile are weird. She's a hard toker, Nevada says. Let's see. I don't know. I know she obviously loves her wine. The people who watch The View daily will love her. Yeah. Well, they love anybody that they tell them to love, right? There's that kind of captured part of every Western country. There's that captured part of the population that's just super amenable to being lied to. See, I Care says, can't wait to see us be unburdened from her in what will come. All right, that gets some applause. Can't wait to see us be unburdened from her in what will come. We'll give you a minute on that one. JJ Nevada says, me too. And he also says that Tulsi is independent now. Yeah. But yeah, I forget that she used to be a Democrat at this point. She seems so distant from that now. Let's see. What else we got going on here? What is this? Oh my God. Okay, we got to watch this.
And then my mother would tell a funny story about how, like one day and I was fussing and so I'm fussing and fussing. It's much cuter when she would tell the story, but she'd say, so then she would look down at me and Kamala, what do you want? What do you want? And I looked back up at her and I said, freedom.
Really? Really?
And then my mother would tell a funny story.
So weird. It's so weird, right? Oh, this is somebody who does not understand people at all or lying, right? She doesn't understand human psychology at all. That is just beyond cringe. Beyond cringe. Sure you did. Sure you did, Kamala. Sure you did. Let's see, this says Democrats getting ready to say nice things about Kamala Harris. Poor Ben Affleck. He's really become just the poster boy, like the avatar for just the man who's just had enough. He's just broken now. It's been too much. He's dealt with too much. He can't bear it anymore. He's just silently bearing this load that actually he's put upon himself. Let's see. Let's see. All right. So what have we got now? Well, here's Tulsi. So we saw Tulsi in the debate. Now this is now. I quite like Tulsi Gabbard. She's an independent now. I'm sure there's things to disagree with about, but I think she's an honest broker. She seems like she's not lying. It doesn't appear to me. I mean, I know that's whenever you're talking about a politician, maybe you're going out on a limb with that, but she does seem to be an honest broker. It does feel like she's operating in good faith. Although, look, if you tell me I'm wrong, she is a politician. Let's take a look.
Hey, everybody. I just got here to Rome, where I'm going to be joining a dialogue and forum on peace, security, and prosperity for the Western Hemisphere in Europe. I just saw the news flash like everybody else. President Biden's no longer running for re-election, and he's endorsed Kamala Harris to be the Democratic nominee for president and commander-in-chief. I'm going to sound the same warning now that I have been for years, going all the way back to 2020 when both Kamala and I were running for president on the Democratic ticket. She is unfit and unqualified to be our president and commander-in-chief and would be incredibly dangerous in that position. The prospect of Kamala Harris making decisions about war and peace and where to send my brothers and sisters in uniform into harm's way is not only terrifying to us, it should be terrifying to every American, knowing that we would all pay the price for her dangerous actions and dangerous decisions. Everything you've heard me say about Hillary Clinton, the queen of warmongers, can also be said of Kamala Harris. There should be no question in your mind that if Kamala is allowed to be our president and commander-in-chief, she'll be the maidservant of this queen of warmongers, the head of this elitist cabal of warmongers that has gotten us into this place. They're the ones who've been calling the shots behind Joe Biden's presidency. They would continue to call the shots if Kamala Harris is president. And where have they led us? To the brink of war with multiple countries in all parts of the world, and closer to the brink of nuclear war and Armageddon now than ever before. The choice for us is very clear. If we cherish peace and freedom, and if we love our country, we must vote against Kamala Harris in this election on November 5th and vote for Donald Trump.
Now, we don't know that it's going to be Kamala, right? They've still got to, they've still got the delegates to deal with. They don't automatically go to Kamala. I think presumptive at this part is safe to say, especially considering that, they're the DEI party now. So it's going to look terrible if they replace her with like a Gretchen Whitmer or Gavin Newsom or somebody like that, right? That's not going to go along with their whole thing. I mean, Joe Biden said explicitly he was going to pick a black woman. And that was the qualifications he was looking for. Right? And this is the problem with DEI, is that when this is all you care about, like I can guarantee you there was a black woman out there who would not have been Kamala Harris, who would have been much, much more qualified. I can guarantee you that. I'm sure plenty of them. I'm sure plenty. But it seems to be the way with the whole DEI thing is that they really do just completely forget about merit and couldn't care less. So anyway, that's a bit of a rant. But if I were the Republicans, I would be begging Tulsi Gabbard to be getting out and saying just that everywhere, all the time, constantly. That's what I would be doing. She's very effective, right? And she really does seem to be acting in good faith and genuine concern for her country, whether you agree with her or not, whether there are policies that you would disagree with that she would promote. She does seem to be at least acting in good faith and acting rationally. JJ Nevada says, at least Tulsi makes sense. Exactly. This is somebody that you could imagine actually sitting down and having a reasonable conversation with and talking about real issues without being called an isterophobe or whatever they throw at you just to try and shut you up. Yeah, I mean, she's endorsing Trump. She's endorsing Trump, Nevada. JJ Nevada. Yep, it looks like it. I mean, that's what it sounds like there, doesn't it? Let's see. Trump unveils Laughin' Kamala nickname for Harris. Okay, let's take a quick peek here. So let's hear some of the laughing first. Wait a second. Why isn't he going with cackling Kamala? That's way better. Oh, we got Rumbum in the chat. Good to see ya. Let's see. Wonder how hard the Dems will have to bend over backwards to justify not upholding democracy when the delegates choose someone. God Lord, I've been reporting on Joe Biden too much. This is called, this is what happens when you stare into the abyss. It stares back at you. When the delegates choose someone that wasn't voted for. Well, I mean, this is the way it's going. They had to get rid of Joe. Anyway, why not? Why isn't Trump calling her cackling Kamala? That seems to be a better one. Laughing Kamala? Cackling Kamala. That seems to be the natural one.
Poor hubby. Poor hubby.
Like, that's not a laugh. That's a cackle. Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Kamala.
That's enough.
You ever watch her laugh? She's crazy. Kamala. You ever watch her laugh? She's crazy. You can tell a lot by a laugh. No, she's crazy. She's nuts. She's not as crazy as Nancy Pelosi. Crazy Nancy. Did you see Nancy Pelosi is selling out Biden now? Did you see? She turned on him like a dog. Well, I don't know if he should continue. All of a sudden, where did that come from? She was 100%. All of a sudden, she's not sure. Not sure means he's gone. But no, she's crazy as a bed bug. She's a crazy girl. Kamala.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi had no idea that Joe's brains were scrambled before the debate. Absolutely no idea. Of course. It just happens that quick. Oh, well, here's a new ad destroying. Apparently it says it's destroying Kamala. I haven't watched it yet, so this will be premiering to me with you.
Kamala was in on it. She covered up Joe's obvious mental decline.
Our president is in good shape, in good health, tireless, vibrant, and I have no doubt about the strength of the work that we have done.
But Kamala knew Joe couldn't do the job, so she did it. Look what she got done. A border invasion, runaway inflation, the American dream dead. They created this mess. Kamala owns this failed record. Make America Great Again Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising. Kamala was in on it. She covered up Joe's obvious mental decline.
Yeah, that's kind of one that's hard to kind of get past, isn't it? I mean, when you think about it, it's a genuine betrayal of your own country. There she is right now. Yeah, this is what she's doing right now. Convinced she's going to be the next president. You know, she'd probably get along great with Trudeau. They both love to dance, and they're both terrible at it. Let's see. Rumbum says, she reminds me of when Dr. Evil and his guys do their group laugh. Just the way she moves her shoulders and arms while cackling. Again, she should really hook up with Trudeau. He's divorced now. Maybe she can get divorced and hook up with Trudeau. And they can dance their hearts out. Just, once they leave their political careers behind. Let's see. Hey, we got Xerxes in the chat. Good to see ya. All right, so that's all of that. So who could replace Joe Biden as the 2024 Democratic nominee? Well, again, it's not in the bag for Kamala. I think you have to see her as the presumptive favorite right now. But it's not in the bag for her. So let's see. So we know about Harris. We already know, blah, blah, blah. Governor Gavin Newsom of California, Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan. Then you got these guys, J.B. Pritzker, Andy Bashir, Wes Moore, Amy Klobuchar, like these three here, nobody's ever heard of. Like I'm talking like outside of people who follow politics. Klobuchar, some people have heard of. You got to understand, like most people in any Western country, like really aren't paying attention. Like there's a large, parts of the population that don't even know like who the leader is, like who's leading the parties, right? Booty Judge, or I've heard people call him booty juice. I've heard people say that. I would never say that about him. I would never say that, but I've heard people say that he's called Pete Booty Juice. Pete Booty Juice. Again, I would never say that, obviously. Josh Shapiro, there's a whole bunch. Raphael Warnock, blah, blah, blah. I think that the ones with the biggest names are Governor Gavin Newsom, California. I don't think he has much of a chance just because of, when you are just all style over substance, you've always got a chance in politics. Just look at Justin Trudeau. He's just a haircut and platitudes. And Newsom is kind of the same, though it just passed that bill that pro sex changes for kids bill in California. This bill where schools have to hide from parents if the kids socially transitioning at school. That's like in the swing states, in the Rust Belt. Is that going to go over very well? I'm not totally sure. But there's another thing about Gavin Newsom, too. There's another thing. The man is clearly a vampire. Clearly a vampire. Let's take a look. I'll present the evidence. Look. Obviously, the man's a vampire, right? If you're watching like some B-movie vampire movie and then he came on the screen, you'd be like, oh, yeah, that's the vampire right there. There'd be no mystery to it. Oh, yeah, it's Gavin Newsom. He's a vampire. Just look at him, for God's sakes. Why do you think he's trying to get all those homeless people to move to California? Nobody knows who they are. Don't leave any records. If they disappear, nobody notices. Perfect for a vampire. I'm just going to say it. Newsom's very clearly eating these homeless people. You don't believe me? Well, I present this evidence right here. Now, his teeth aren't out, but they only come out when he feeds, obviously. That's obvious. Everybody knows that about vampires. Look at that face. You're trying to tell me that's not a vampire? That's not a creature of the night? Come on. I'm not buying it for 1 second. Look at him. Look at him. Look at that expression on his face. The fangs are about to come out. Joe's asking him if he can bite him so that he can be immortal. And Gavin's like, no, I don't want your old blood. That's just my thoughts on it. And then you get to Gretchen Whitmer. Hate to beat a dead horse here, but that look like a vampire to anybody? Looks like a vampire to me. I'm sorry. Man, I don't know how old she is. She could be 200 years old. She could be 500 years old. She could be 1,000 years old. She could be like a vampire from like the Egyptian pharaoh day. She could have been like an Egyptian pharaoh vampire. I don't know. I don't know how long it goes back. Well, Nevada's saying which. She does have a bit of that too, but I'm going to go with vampire. She probably got bit by him, right? Just look at his face. Just look at that expression. That's not human. There's nothing human about that, right? There's nothing human behind those eyes. That's a monster. That's a creature of the night. That's somebody who devours souls. I don't know how old he is. He might be 1,000 years. 5,000 years. God knows how long. But all I know is I don't trust him. Then what do people want? What do people want? Do they want an immortal god emperor like Trump? Or a terrifying creature of the night? I know what my choice is. And I don't want to make a big deal of this. All I'm saying is that I think that probably most, if not all, Democrats and liberal leaders, leftist leaders in general, are vampires. So, Xerxes says, vampire hairline. Again, another piece of crucial evidence. He's not going to make Biden immortal. He wants him out of the way. And he's evil, right? So he's not going to, why is he going to help Joe? Let's see. Rumbum saying, ha ha ha, lost it when you showed his pic. Just need to put a horror filter on it. Yeah. I'll figure out how to do that someday. Nevada says he does look like a vampire. See? I mean, seeing a lot of witch in the comments, witch indeed. I mean, she could be a witch, but I just feel what's more plausible? That she's just a witch on her own, or that she got bit by this guy and now she's a vampire. I know what I think. Vampire hairline, it's true. Vampire, what more evidence do we need? All right. So I think that, what I think we're going to do? We're almost an hour in. And I think what we're going to do is now shut down the YouTube part of the stream. So we're streaming live to Rumble and YouTube right now. But, I'm having some problems with YouTube censoring me and like removing, nuking my live streams for no reason other than I guess it's an election year and there's things they don't want channels talking about. And they want to try and funnel everybody to CNN and MSNBC to the acceptable narratives. So, yeah, so I'm not going to do the full streams on YouTube anymore. We'll do the start, do the first part, and we'll probably go for 3 hours tonight, do another 2 hours. But yeah, we're going to have to shut down the YouTube early. But if you want to keep watching, if you're on YouTube right now and you want to keep watching, come over to Rumble. Water's great. Everybody's super friendly. It's really nice over here. So jump over to Rumble and watch us there. While you're at Rumble, subscribe to the channel so you'll always see my live streams. Anyway, give me 1 second while I try and do this without destroying everything. 1 second, guys.